It's sometimes hard to get agents on the phone. It's even harder to get sellers on the phone. So we had a lot higher chance of getting a response. Number two, you did get someone on the phone today. You got some good feedback. You know exactly where. I'm a real estate investor. I'm sharing everything I know about subject to in a way that complete beginners understand. This guy is John Pratt, our fearless novice, diving headfirst into the world of subject to real estate deals. Watch as I start him on the path. I'm your guide, Kyle Kargas, and this is Subject to Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire. Welcome to Subject to Real Estate Secrets, the path from moron to millionaire. Subject to real estate is when you go and buy a house, you take over a seller's existing mortgage, but they sold you the house. They move on, you own it, and you get their beautiful interest rate. Welcome back to the show, John. I'm excited. Today's episode is going to be super cool.
Yes.
Okay. In fact, for everyone else to know, we are going to be doing live calls today.
Yeah, a little nervous.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just everyone out there in the whole world could be watching you.
I don't know why people like me get nervous on phone calls trying to solve people's problems. It's really weird.
Isn't it though?
Yeah.
Like it's all built into our own brains, right? Like
Yeah.
we're emotional beings, right? And so we let these feelings come in, anxiety, etc., that aren't real things on the outside, right? Anxiety doesn't exist on the outside. It only exists on the inside because of our brains and emotions, the way it's working, and it's making a comparison on what we feel confident in, what we don't feel confident in. And I always tell my wife to this, if I'm not feeling a little bit of anxiety every day, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not growing fast enough. So I am happy, and I hope that you're feeling a little bit of anxiety in this episode, John.
Yeah.
Because that means you're going to be growing. So congratulations, first of all, on being willing to do it. Everyone else is going to be watching, taking notes. I hope you're also at home. Make calls. If you need to, replay this episode over and over and make your own calls at the same time so you feel like you're part of a team. Whatever you got to do. So you're going to be making live calls today. I might be giving you a little bit of information during the call if it makes sense and I don't want to throw you off. But right after, I'm going to give you very direct responses, right? Feedback.
Yeah, at least when I hang up.
At least when you hang up, okay? So that'll be kind of cool. Okay, so we're going to do that. But before we start, like everyone knows, there is a little bit of homework.
Yeah.
Okay? So first off, tell me some numbers. How did the week go?
Yeah. So LOIs sent was our first KPI.
Yes.
42. 42 LOIs sent.
Okay.
Responses to those LOIs.
Yes.
Like 6. When I say like 6, I mean precisely 6.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
6,
6 of those 42 actually responded to
7,
you.
another guy today.
Okay.
Yeah.
7 of those 42 responded to you. Okay.
Via email.
So that's almost 20% again.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
You kind of had
I didn't compare the numbers.
You actually had a pretty good response rate like a couple weeks ago, and then we had one that was kind of a bit lower.
Yeah.
But based on this list, right, you're almost back to 20%, right? 8 would have been, almost 20% of 41, 42, whatever you said.
Like up from like whatever, 3.5 or 5 last period.
So that's great. So you had a really good response rate. Some people would be watching might say, hey, you still might need to be sending out a lot more LOIs to actually be able to up your appointment set. Okay? We know how many LOIs were sent. You got 7 responses. Okay, keep going with me.
So conversations, whether or not they were from those responses, is 11 conversations.
You had 11 conversations.
Yeah.
So some of those were with those 7. So the one thing we don't know is, so you still had 11 because you're doing all this follow-up for other people.
Some of them were like getting back to me on email. I would call them instead of replying.
Okay.
They don't answer. It goes to voicemail. I leave a voicemail. I email back, and they email back.
Okay.
So they're like,
Totally, yes, totally makes sense. I think it's quite common. Okay. So one thing we'll adjust going forward is when you do that, add up your total conversations, but if you don't mind, separate it into how many you're getting from the LOIs that you sent out that week.
Yeah.
And then just the grand total.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So every time that you're having a conversation with someone from the LOIs that were sent out that week, just make sure we know. So when you're like, I had 11 conversations, 5 of those were from the 42.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That way we know how many of those responses you were actually able to get a hold of.
And how many I'm calling back basically colder.
Exactly. Because now if you actually talk to 11, it's like, ooh, cool, you followed up with other people and you got 5 more conversations. I still want to know what your total conversation is as well. So the number you just told me is good, 11. I still want to know that because the next ratio is you had 11 conversations, but how many appointments did you have? Okay, so just under 10%. So
I guess it's not terrible, but I need more conversations. I can keep that percentage and still lob you a decent amount of.
not everyone's going to want, an appointment, right? So now it's, okay, so you had 1 appointment set this week. Hopefully some of the calls we do today that everyone's going to be watching live hopefully this will be helpful. So as you make calls live and I give you feedback and help you, where is that going to help you in these statistics?
It's going to help me turn more conversations into appointments.
That's where it's going to help you.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not going to help you on sending more LOIs or getting a response rate back from them. It's zoning in on the conversion, right? So right now you just got a little under 10%, right? So this is where the better you are on the phone, the more appointments you'll be able to set.
Which sort of drives me a little bit crazy last week because the week before that I had a pretty good, I'll say close rate for lack of a better word, from conversation to appointment, which felt great.
Yes.
But it didn't translate to last week and it didn't translate to this week. So I'm like, why didn't I do that? And as I'm calling, and we were talking yesterday or the day before, I can't remember, just off recording, about something about pressure or something. And anyway, I was thinking a little bit about it last night. I was like, I've been putting so much pressure on these guys when I call them. They're going to shut down. Like I'm coming, if I come at them any sort of weird or pressure, it's it's over. There's this wall.
You have to remember, right, as a good reminder, you just want to have a conversation like you'd be having a conversation with anyone else.
Yeah.
You do want to still come in confident, right? And you want to be coming in as if one of your biggest tools is that you have so many appointments and deals, it's not a big deal, right? You don't need to pressure them into setting an appointment. It's just like,
exploring.
Hey, we think it's exploratory, and hey, based on what we saw and the information that we pulled, right?
Yeah.
You can even say, hey, we saw it online. We thought the house would possibly be a good fit. An option like this that your sellers might appreciate finding out more about it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not here to convince anybody.
Yeah. And even on the phone, I'm not convincing them to close, to sign right now,
Exactly. Right. And you don't even have that option.
Yeah.
Right? But your sign right now is an appointment.
Yeah. But sometimes they think that's what I'm trying to do. So if I need to diffuse that somehow.
I love it. So I'm glad you're already kind of there on some of that. So, okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that information. Also, if I understand, you recorded one of your calls.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, a few of them, yeah.
Okay. So you recorded a few of your calls. Yeah. Okay. And so as a bonus to everyone watching, we're going to do live calls now, but as a bonus, we're going to throw those calls at the end of the episode so that way they can see, because the way you talk on the phone in front of me and with me is going to be a little bit different than when you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
All right?
And it'll be good for them because they get to see, it's a real session. They'll see. I edited it down so there's no blank spots between calls.
Yep. So we'll throw those on. We will throw those on at the end as an additional bonus for everyone. But John, it's time.
Okay. Let's make
It's time. Let's make calls. Okay. So we're checking your email right now.
Yeah. I'm
to
looking at my
see
email.
what your responses that you have on who we could call.
Yeah. So I sent out one this morning. It was early our time. It was 2 hours later in where I was blasting. He says, "Hey John, thank you for the proposal, but my client is not in a position to sell below 325. Or the seller bought for 310. He's listing it at 332, 332.5, and he's saying we can't go below 325 here, and I know why.
Yeah.
He can't afford to sell it.
Yeah. There's no equity.
There's no equity. He can't back down from 325. There's no room. You have to come up with money.
So people understand the reason he's saying that is because with your LOI you sent both options, a cash option and a creative option. And so clearly he's talking about, hey, I can't sell any lower than that price. That's because your cash offer was lower than that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
And right before we started here, you briefly told me about this person.
Said maybe I should take my cash offer off my LOI.
Yeah, off of the LOI and only give them just the creative. But the reality is you got a response. The whole purpose of the LOI is to create a response, to get to make it a warm contact, not a cold contact.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. So actually, in that moment, you're thinking the opposite.
I'm thinking it's broken.
You're thinking it's broken, but in all reality, it was working.
Yeah.
right? Because now when you call, once again, do what you want. But you could bring up the cash, but not as a bring it up as like to see if they're open to it because you already got a response.
Yeah.
But you could bring it up as in building rapport, letting them know that you heard them.
Yeah.
You actually read the email. You're like, hey, right? You said this. I hear you. Totally makes sense. Afterwards, like, and be like, oh, afterwards I realized when he bought, and I'm just assuming that that's because he can't even take it if he wants to.
Anything below that,
Right.
because he's gonna have to come up with the
Right.
extra 70,000.
And what do you
or
think
whatever.
that might spark if you say something like that? And just pause.
He'll give me some info.
He's going to give you some info. Well, yeah. He just bought not too long ago. He doesn't have that equity. He can't do that. Oh, interesting.
I'm trying to figure out a way to give him full price,
Right.
in a way that he maybe can't get traditionally.
Right.
You know, see what he says.
You got options,
Okay,
man. I'm
yeah.
excited. So, yep. Let's grab his info. Let's have you call. This is live.
You have reached the cell phone of Stanley Jones. I'm either in a meeting or out in the field.
Okay, go ahead and hang up.
Leave your name and number.
If you haven't dialed twice, you haven't dialed once.
Got it.
This is Stan.
Hi, Stan. I'm John. I got your email about that proposal on the listing. Is that your listing?
Yes.
I see that the cash offer sounds like that definitely will not work. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Is that because, and I'm just guessing here, you can tell me if I'm way off here. Is that because he would have to because he owes more than that? Like he doesn't have that much equity in it? Okay. Because I'm trying to think in my brain, this is what my team does. My partner,
No.
Sure.
I'm going to stop you right there.
Sure.
Stop you. If you're trying to do that creative financing stuff, we're not doing that.
They're not interested in that kind of thing?
No, sir.
Okay. Totally got it. Is that because they don't like any of the terms or they don't like the structure in general?
No, we have to sell the home. That's what it is. So they have to sell the home. They can't do that.
Okay, they have to sell the house. That's why they can't do creative?
Yes.
Okay. And you can shut me down on this. I just want to ask you one last thing while I have you on the phone for a couple seconds. If I could get it so they could actually sell the house with keeping their name on the mortgage and we take over payments, is that something they would be interested in exploring?
Still can't do that.
Okay. Okay. Is that because they need the money? Like, I know I'm pushing here. You can shut me down if you want. I just want to make sure that I understand.
Yes, that's correct. They need all of the money they can, and that's why we're at the price at $332 right now. And pretty much we have to sell the home. That's what the banks have said.
Are they trying to buy another house? Or for what?
Okay. Are they in their next house already?
They're about to be.
Okay.
Exciting.
Okay, that's super cool. Are they having trouble like qualifying for it, or they're already under contract for the new one?
We're already under contract with a new one.
Oh,
Let me ask
stellar.
you a question. Can you buy that house and get a conventional loan and take it off our hands?
I'll say that again.
Can you do a conventional financing and take it off our hands?
We don't really do that, no, but we could get.
I'm asking about you, not we. You.
No, it's because the financing is too expensive right now. That's what would stop me.
No, it's not. Yeah, that's right. But at the end of the day, if you're a true investor, you'll be able to take it on with those interest rates because you know that you'll be able to refinance it with lower rates.
Oh, does it
So
rent?
at the end
Does
of
it
the day,
rent?
You're talking to a buyer himself.
Would the rent be enough
What's
to pay for it?
Do you know what the rent is on that one? Like
It's all good.
potentially.
The rent on that bad boy is anywhere between $2,200 to $2,800 a month.
And so a conventional loan right now, the payment would be less than that?
So if I went conventional, would the payment be more than that or less?
Pretty much, I think based on that, you would have to whoever you get qualified through, you could probably get your payments around $2,000 to $1,500. Just depends on how much you could put down on it.
Interesting. Okay, that would be like what, like a 6% rate? 6.5
It could
maybe.
be anywhere between you have
that's
to be
what's
in
gonna
those
be even
sixes or fives if you can get it right, or you may be having to pretty much you'll have to pretty much how can I say this get this loan first, and then pretty much refinance when those rates drop.
Right.
So we're saying
Yeah.
between 7 and 8 right now. That's where you're gonna start out at with any investment.
I would say we'd have to put down
Closer
way-
to 8, and I'd have to put down a bunch on it.
way too much of a down payment.
Yeah.
That's why I'm exploring these other options. I appreciate you letting me ask, lob these questions at you. Okay, got it. If there's a way to give him full price with creative, just so I understand totally, he's not at all interested in that method.
Not at all, no sir.
Okay. hey, you got any listings? Now that you know a little bit about what I'm sort of like after in that area, do you know any listings that might make sense, like fit my parameters?
No, sir.
Okay, you got it. Hey, Stan, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, wonderful.
I explored a lot.
You did good. Well, I noticed a couple things.
Yeah.
Okay. You said earlier that you do sometimes go a little bit pushy, right? And I would say you did great. The only thing that came across pushy to me was the fact that you asked probably the same question like at least 3 times. And I think people in general, especially by the 3rd time, are going to be like, dude, I already told you no.
And the 2nd time, I think it told him it was my last time asking. You know what it probably was, now that I reflect on it, is probably me not wanting to give up too easily.
In front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Yes, totally get that, totally fine. So what I would do is, I probably wouldn't even ask a 2nd time for that. What I would have done, okay, and what would be a good idea is you need to know more of the picture. Information is key. Because what did he do at the very beginning? Whoa, let me stop you there.
Yeah.
Are you trying to do... Now, here's the cool part. You did good because lots of people, they're going to do that and they're like, okay, hey, thanks, out, bye.
Right.
And they're done because the guy just freaking shut it down, right? But you weren't...
But that's every other agent.
But that's every other agent, exactly. Yeah. And you're like, okay, got it. So my big thing that I was thinking that I kind of tried to mention it a little bit was, it's why. So he's like, oh no, they can't do that. And the question is like...
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
It's like, yeah. Oh, interesting. Why? What they got? Is it the money they need or is it the freeing up the credit? Or both?
Tell me about those scenarios. Like freeing up the credit to do...
Freeing up credit would be the DTI. Okay, so debt to income.
So if they're worried that they can't qualify for the next house because they're selling sub 2 and they're still on the deed.
Yes.
But they don't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, they're worried about that because they don't understand that they can tell the next lender, somebody else is servicing this debt. I can prove it, just like you could prove a tenant is servicing that debt.
Correct. Because there are some lenders where it works well after 12 months, but do we have to do something for certain lenders, if they need to buy a house immediately rather than a year or 2 from now?
Different approaches.
Sometimes it can be different approaches, but either way, we can get it all done. They won't know that. Right?
Yeah.
And they can
almost
truly believe that it's the opposite. Hey, no, they're just not okay with it. So you need to get more information. So when he said that, then it's like, oh, interesting. I did like that you softened it a little bit and maybe a little too much further down the road of like, hey, you can stop me and shut me up. Part of it I liked.
Because the pullback maybe
because it's a pullback. You did a pullback. But to do it to maybe not as frequent because it's almost at that point saying like, hey, I don't even know if you should be talking to me anymore.
Yeah, hey, turn off the phone.
I'm giving you enough reasons why you shouldn't be talking to me anymore. Kind of like I did say this to you before, right? Kind of like, oh, you're begging for it type of thing, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for...
Yeah, type of thing, right? So I think here the biggest piece missing was information. We know he doesn't have a lot of equity.
Yes.
He's trying to buy another house. You did ask if he already had, like, hey, is he already in a place? No, he's buying one.
Yeah, supposedly under contract.
Right? And supposedly he's under contract for it. So if you would have asked earlier about the why, is it the money or is it freeing up the credit? Like what's his concern with it? Like why won't it work? Right? If you can get him to answer that, he might say, oh yeah, it's the DTI. He has to qualify for the new loan. Now separate that problem. Okay, assuming that we could help that DTI not be a problem. If we could completely solve that.
And I don't even go into details right
Don't even go into details.
Yeah.
If we could solve that.
Would there still be an issue?
Is there anything else that would be a problem on creating something? If we could still get you paid, if we could still get the seller their money, etc., and we solve the DTI problem so he can get a new loan, would something like that might work?
And then if he says, no, they just need the cash.
Right. So
and no DTI.
If he says, so let's go through a couple scenarios.
Because this is a whole avenue I did not even explore at all.
Yes, right, at all. This guy still could have been a possible lead.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, because what if he shut you down for the DTI?
He says it is a problem.
Yeah. So let's say it is a problem. The
Yeah.
DTI is a problem, and that's why he shut you down now, but you don't know that because you didn't ask.
Yep.
But let's say saying that you asked it and he told you it was, saying, okay, great. So if we can solve that, the rest of this might work. And he says, yes. Oh, okay, wonderful. We actually help people all the time in this exact scenario. where what I can tell you is there hasn't even been one seller that we have not been able to help them get into another house. If there's nothing else, we should definitely get you on a call with Kyle, my partner. He can underwrite it and tell you exactly how that we can help your seller do that. Does that sound like something that you would at least want to talk about?
Yeah. I can't even say no to that. And I'm not selling a house, and I want to say yes.
Exactly. So, boom, appointment set. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, let's play. He says, no, it's not the DTI. He actually makes enough money. He already qualifies for the another house. It's the money.
Yeah, which apparently, if everything he said is true, it's not the DTI. Because, I mean, I guess maybe he would be worried about the DTI.
Well, no.
But it does not stopping him from getting under contract on his new house.
You could go under contract, but the contract could be contingent on the other house selling.
Okay.
Which means the lender is saying that the DTI is a problem, but the DTI would be gone once it's sold.
Okay, yeah.
Or the DTI issue.
So it's contingent upon debt to income, not contingent upon it selling.
That's correct.
It's just that would satisfy the debt
That's
to income.
correct.
Okay.
Now you understand.
Okay.
So, which is what the agents automatically assume that selling the house is actually the problem. It's the DTI, but if you could solve the DTI problem a different way, you didn't have to sell the house. Well, in all reality, they are still selling the house when we buy it, but it's not.
But not from a DTI perspective.
It's the mortgage part that is the problem.
Just similarly, a tangent I know, but how many problems out there exist that people are misidentifying the problem? Yeah. Probably most problems.
Yeah. The coolest things in this world is when people come up with new solutions to solve problems that already exist, right? Yeah. And just by thinking a different way. So that's what this is. Thinking a different way, trying to solve those problems, okay?
So what if he did, if he did say, they needed cash. They need the cash for
So
something.
now, moving from DTI to cash, hey, they need the cash. Okay. Now, that can be a real problem that sometimes we can't overcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Usually you can't overcome it if it's a large amount. So let's say they had $100,000 in equity and they go get a new house. Guess what? Do people usually roll the whole amount into their new house?
No, they owe money.
Yeah.
When they sell.
But their equity portion. So let's say their house is worth 400. They have 100 grand of that in equity that they would actually get. If they go try to buy a new house, do people buy the smallest house that they can afford or the largest house?
They usually buy the largest.
They usually buy the largest. To buy the largest house, they have to spend the whole 100,000 and roll that into the next house.
Yeah.
Right? That's how they'll buy it. So
do they even have an option to cash out?
there are some sellers that are like, yep, I'm buying another house, and they're like, all 100,000 has to go into it.
Yeah. Pretty typical, right?
Yeah, that actually can happen quite a bit.
Yeah.
And if they really do need that money to be able to do that, and that's the only way to do it, then you might not be able to be a solution for it.
Because they need all that equity.
Yeah, they have made it so tight that there is no wiggle room for them. Alternatively, they might not need the whole 100. What if they only need, it's like, oh, they just want to put the whole 100 in because the payment on their new home would be lower with a bigger down payment. However, based on how much money they make and interest rate, et cetera, and how much they qualify for, there could be a world where they only need 30,000 to put down, that they could still do the whole thing, but their payment would just be higher because it's a smaller down payment.
And we keep using the word equity. It's not really equity they're getting. They're getting cash. You're paying, and correct me if I'm wrong, the buyer, the investor buyer, is paying to get them into their new house so that they get out of their old house so that we can keep that equity in that house.
No. So when we buy something subject to, we're taking over the existing mortgage.
Yeah.
And then we analyze the equity portion.
Yeah.
So in this example, I'm saying that there's $100,000 of equity in the house.
But they're not going to just leave there by default.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, if someone's in a tough spot, they would leave that equity in there by default, but we would they're not just going to hand us the equity. Right? We would create a seller financing note for that $100,000. Let's say they weren't buying another house, and we would start making monthly payments to them, or we would still owe them the $100,000 that we would eventually pay. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
They would become the lender or the bank for that $100,000.
It's almost like wrapping their own house, sort of.
Correct.
Like putting
now, if they're trying to buy another house, okay, and they need some of that money, okay, most of the time the question is, oh, well, how much cash can we bring to the table? Okay, well, the maximum cash that we would ever pay them, which we won't pay them this much, would be $100,000 for that house. I'm not going to pay them over $100,000 because they don't have more than $100,000 in equity
that they would be giving you.
Correct.
Or
Now,
leaving in their name under the house, under the mortgage.
correct. So in this scenario, it's, what they're planning on buying a new house, they want to actually find someone that can pay them the whole $100,000. So they get that cash, they roll it into the new house, so their loan is smaller on the new house. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, we wouldn't be able to do that. 100,000 would be too much. We might be able to go to them and say, hey, we can give you $30,000 of that 100. If that's enough, either maybe $30,000 is enough for them to still qualify for their new house, just with the higher payment. Or maybe they have some savings as well that they could combine with it to give a big enough down payment. And then the $70,000 that's still over here of equity, they become the bank and we create a monthly payment. In fact, that monthly payment could be then income used to offset the increase in the payment that they got over here because they couldn't transfer the 70 grand left over there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so they just wait for the rest of the 70.
Correct.
For the 70.
Correct. Okay. So what that means is, so option one, right, is sellers are going to want all of their money. If they have too big of equity, we're not going to be able to give them all that equity.
But I'm not going to like shut them down because I don't think we can solve the problem.
Yeah, we don't know.
I'm going to still lob them an appointment. I'm going to pitch them.
Yeah. Now, every agent is going to say, oh, well, they need all their equity.
Either because they don't know or that's their opening.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. They just assume, oh, no, they're going to want all 100,000.
Yeah.
Right? You go, okay. And now you could say, like, look, I will say, typically we don't give anywhere near 100,000 on a house. You know, I would say, all right, you know, we normally are anywhere from $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a house. It just depends on how much it is and what's going on. Here's an idea. Here's option two. An idea would be, is there a world where your sellers don't need the whole 100 to go buy the next house? Right? Where, what if we were able to give them $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 of it? If that would be enough for them to qualify and buy their new home, and then the amount of equity they left and they became the bank on, we started giving them a monthly payment on, and they could use that to offset the payment difference possibly.
So they make money with the remaining 60 because they get the 60 back with interest from us over time.
Exactly, and then that helps pay for their new expense, right? Is that something that, you know, we should explore with your sellers?
Or it's like I know some of these are ninja moves or something.
Option A.
These are just two options.
Yeah, option A is straightforward, but just doesn't sound like it's really going to work for anybody. Option B could work. It might be something you want to talk to your sellers about, right? And you can let me know if that's worth exploring. If it is, I can have you talk tomorrow. The next step would be to have you talking to my partner, Kyle, because he would underwrite it and be able to tell you, you're going to need to know how much that cash actually is.
Yeah.
And that's Kyle's.
Real numbers.
Real numbers, and that's Kyle's job, right?
Yeah.
But obviously none of us want to jump through all of those hoops if your sellers actually need the whole 100 completely.
Yeah. To me, this is like ninja moves. You know, to me, because I'm so new, less than a year into thinking about this. So I probably won't use all that ammo.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
Phone call.
Here's the other thing. Cut it super short then.
Yeah.
If he says, hey, actually, I think they might be willing to do it if they could get all their equity. We're like, oh, okay. You know what? I don't underwrite the deals. Like, honestly, my whole purpose in calling you is to find out if the structure might work for your seller, and it sounds like it could.
And now that we know that it at least could,
right? Then I think it's worth. Yes, then I think it's worth a call to talk to Kyle. You know, because basically he'll need, and you don't have to even talk about how much equity it is, right? Let me do that. That's actually probably a way better response for you to set up the appointment.
Just to get the.
I'm only telling you some of this information as if they're not willing to set the appointment.
Yes. Yeah.
The moment they're willing to set the appointment, stop talking.
Yeah.
Set the appointment. But if they're telling you they're not willing to get on a call with me because they need all their equity, that's when you might say, look, it's probably unlikely that we could give them the whole 100. It's not my job to know the numbers, but there could be a world where we can give them a portion of that, enough to buy their house so they can move on. And then we just have to figure out how the math works to make sure they get paid on the rest of it.
Yeah.
If you think that's a possibility, then I would say it's probably worth getting on a call.
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, that was with a large equity. If it's small like this guy,
most of these are.
Should be small because you're filtering for that.
I'm already filtering in batch leads for 20% or less.
Correct. So this guy, he said, hey, they can't take anything less than what, 320?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Neighborhood,
so, yeah, probably has 20 grand in equity or something. Who knows? And that might even be, they might not even have that much because of commissions and expenses and things like that,
And
right?
at the beginning of their mortgage, they're paying interest.
Right. So it's actually easier to get past the money question because all of this that I'm explaining to you, and then we need to get back to more live calls. If it's a money problem, all you have to say is like, if it's not a lot of money, we might be able to give him his whole equity.
So he can happily move on to his next house.
And most of them that you're calling is low. So I'd be like, yeah, I don't know if we can give him his whole amount in equity in cash or not, but that'd be Kyle's job. And so
Sounds like you're ready to at least talk with him.
I think it's worth a conversation. What if he can? You know, and if he can't, what if you guys have come up with a solution that does fit for your seller? I think it might be worth a phone call. What do you think? Boom, set the appointment.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's just a few theoretical ways that it could go, but you had no idea why.
I never asked.
You never asked. He said, no, it won't work. You don't know if it's DTI. You don't know if it's cash. You don't know if there's a judgment. You don't know if he's getting married and needs the money. You don't
Because I asked the wrong question. I went somewhere else with it.
You moved on, which is you still got further information, but you needed to ask why.
Yeah.
That's where you got stuck. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Next one.
All right, let's see. I have no idea who this is or anything about the listing, even though I have data. It's just...
Hi, you've reached Rob Zanicki. Just leave a message.
Hang up. Dial again. Everyone take note. We're double dialing. Okay?
Double dial
always
soon.
double dial. Double dial is the new single dial.
Hi, you've reached
Leave a VM.
message, and I'll call you back as soon as possible.
Hi, my name's John. I have an investor buyer looking at 2608 Grantham Place. Hoping to talk to you about that. I actually sent over a soft offer about it already. Didn't hear back, so I figured I'd call. But now that I guess I got your voicemail, I'll just shoot you an email back as well. Hoping to touch base soon. Thanks, Rob.
You're literally just putting feelers out there, right? You're like, hey, we're trying to connect. And then you get on the conversation. Now, we did only get one solid recording so far, right, of a live call. So you can see lots of these are going to be, hey, you're trying to call, can't get a hold of people, right? Now, for anyone watching, you can go back there and you can see how much of this video was me explaining the different options, right, during the feedback of that first call. So you can actually fit a lot of calls in. And look at this, already on to the next one. Good job, John. This is the reality of life. You don't have an appointment time set up. We're a buyer,
Your call
John.
has been forwarded to
We're a buyer
voicemail.
interested.
The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Is your real
At the
estate
tone,
agent answering
please
your
record
phone?
your message.
That's the real
When
question.
you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hi, my name's John. I have an investor buyer looking. I actually sent over a soft offer to your email. Didn't hear back, so I figured I'd call. But now that I got voicemail, I'll just reply via email again. See if we can touch base. Thanks, Matt.
Excellent. There you go. Working them down. Do you feel like you're working faster right now
Faster,
than
yeah.
normal?
I spent a lot of time with the tech and setting it up so that you could hear me.
Okay. Outside of that day when you're not recording, do you still feel like you're doing these calls faster?
Yeah, it's more
Okay.
pressure. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to try to create this pressure yourself.
Yeah.
It's way too easy to go slow. In weeks past, have you had enough time to call everyone that you've sent LOIs to?
No.
No. So you're running out of time. Guys, I don't know anything about it. John, I guess, has an address there, but we're not looking this up on Zillow. We're not looking at the pictures. We're not doing any of that. Right? The house potentially can fit what we're looking for. Just have an easy conversation. Try to book an appointment. I think you might forward somewhere as a backup in case someone doesn't answer. And where's the backup to the backup? Call again. Double dial.
Hello, this is group.
Hi, my name's John. I'm actually looking for. Is he the agent on listing 2630?
No, so he's listed as co-list or he's on there on every listing, but the other agent who's listed is going to be the listing agent.
Oh, okay. What's their name?
I'm not in front of my computer to check, but it's in MLS.
Okay, I'll go check the MLS real quick and give them a call. Their phone number's on the listing?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Bye.
Yeah, she's not the listing or the co-listing agent.
She's just their desk.
There's no reason to talk to her.
Okay.
Okay? It just would have been a waste of time.
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. All of these houses, we could possibly be the buyer for them. However, they're all just an excuse to really talk to the agent and build a relationship with the agent. because it might be another house. It might be another way to make money together, right?
Yeah.
So one person might say, oh, well, why didn't you talk to this person if she's an agent?
She said it's on the MLS. It's not on the Zillow.
On the Zillow, it only has the other guy?
It doesn't have any guy. Hold on, let me see. It's got to have somebody, right? I searched for the first guy's
Well,
name.
she's not in front of her computer.
Yeah.
So she has no idea what house you're even talking about. I would say let's do this.
Okay.
I would just move on to the next
Just
one.
go.
Yep. Because you can look this up on your own. This is what you have to do at home, though. Push through, be like, hey, I'm just making calls. Boom. Just push through all the calls and then mark them as what you need to do.
Right, which I'll
Right?
probably forget some details.
If you put it in the notes, oh, okay, I need to send an email for this. I need to send an email for this. Because otherwise, now you can do it
And
mixed
normally I
in.
would do that.
Yeah, and if you can do it
Take
mixed
time.
in, that's fine too. But like this one, oh, I have a bad number. Right now is your calling time. Don't waste your time trying to research a better number for it. Just move
Right.
on. When your calling time's over, you can go do the research. Yeah, let's see if we can get one more live person. If she answers now, right? Like,
You have reached
nope, now one ring.
654-0926.
I'll be nice. I'll leave her a message.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, this message is John. I have an investor buyer looking at. I'm pretty sure that's your listing. I actually sent over a soft offer about it. Didn't hear back, so I figured I'd call. I'll touch base via email again, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Thanks.
We'll try one more. Let's see if this last one can get alive. This is the reality, guys. We have now been, I'm looking at a timer. We've now been 56 minutes, right? Now, we did start with, since the beginning of the video when it started.
And we
Right.
talked.
And we
about the
talked
first
we
call.
talked probably about 10 minutes, right? At the beginning. And then I gave you feedback. So in all reality, we might be about 35 minutes in, 40 minutes in max on making calls. And we've gotten one live call, right? And so
Yeah.
this is just how it happens. You'll find out the best times to make calls to certain agents.
Yeah,
and
these are
people.
East Coast, so it's
Yeah,
it's coming up on noon.
which could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. You'll have to test that out and find out. Come on, pick up the phone.
Hello, you've reached Robin Central.
We might have to do another session of this.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah,
in
it's
a
live.
crazy way.
It's happening, right? People need to realize that this is what it takes.
Hello, you've reached Real Estate. Please leave your name, telephone number, and a brief message, and I will return your call shortly. Please note if you leave a message past 6 p.m. or on a Sunday, I will return your phone call the next business day. Thanks.
Oh, she does not work.
Hi, my name is John. 480-788-6412. I have a real estate investor looking at 4505. I think that's your listing. I touched base via email. I actually sent over a proposal about it. Didn't hear back, so I figured I'd call you. Now that I'm just leaving a voicemail, I'll just hit you up on email. Make sure we can touch base. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
Interesting. So she doesn't work all the time.
She's saying if it's 6 p.m., she probably got kids or something,
Yeah.
I'll call back late, the next day.
I get it.
I get it. Totally get it. Yeah.
I get it. Perfect. Send out that email. Now, in that voicemail, I would probably adjust a little bit.
Okay. I said real estate investor or something.
Well,
What
no,
did I
that was
say?
fine.
Okay.
Just at the end, you're like, hey, now that I've reached out to you, whatever, I'll reach out to an email again here so we can kind of keep going. You can say that, but you still want to make sure the message of that they should be calling you is the preferred. You've been
Yeah.
saying, okay, cool, now that we've done this, I'll just shoot you an email. So now it's almost as
Default.
the default is mission accomplished if they just respond to your email. So the one thing I would probably change would be like, hey, great, bummer that I couldn't grab you this time as well.
I'll leave you an
I'll,
email
sh-
just in
I'll shoot
case."
you a new email, but please give me a call back when you have a moment.
Yeah.
People tend to do what you ask them to do, or at least are more likely to do it.
If only.
Perfect.
So normally, I would take notes as I go, so I don't have to remember like what call was that. After this recording, I'll take all my notes.
Perfect.
To make sure I don't double efforts that don't need to be doubled.
Correct.
On that
Correct.
person. I'm gonna close this.
Things just in general, super fast, okay, that I want to talk about is yes. Could you feel the energy shift from the beginning when we started towards, oh my gosh, people aren't answering, so you felt pressure, probably because of the video, that you wanted to call more people to try to get a live call,
Yes.
which is why you didn't want to have to put your notes in, and you didn't want to write a long email, you wanted to write a short one because we wanted to not create a lot of time. Number one, people when they are starting and are trying to make calls, you'll find out that someone might make 1 call, 2 calls, 3 calls even in 1 hour. And 1 person answered or 0.
Yeah.
Right? Which sounds ridiculous when I say it now.
But we just
did an hour.
We
101 minus 15 minutes. So in 45 minutes, I didn't keep track of exactly how many we called.
Did I only get 1 on the line?
We only got 1 person on the line.
That guy.
So that, once again, that could be because of the time of the day that we're doing it and where, etc. All of those things could come into place. This is also, you are now calling, there's going to be a difference between people that respond to your email and the people that ignore your email.
Definitely.
Because people that aren't on top of their game and their calendar to get to emails are probably not on top of their phone game either. Right?
What's with all the Gmails? Does that indicate they're not on their game?
No. If
Not
they have a
necessarily?
Gmail, Gmail's fine.
Why do they so many have Gmail?
A lot of realtors have Gmails. It's the same question of why do so many people have Gmail in general.
In general.
Right?
It's
Just
free.
a high probability. It's free. As a realtor, you don't need to have people have grown to expect that it's okay to have a Gmail as a realtor.
Because the broker's going to give them a website, a little landing page, contact page.
Yep.
They don't need
Yep. And
fancy.
here's the other thing. A lot of agents change their brokerage, who they're with. And so they don't want to have to change an email every time that they change their broker.
BubbaJoe.kw.com.
Yep.
He's stuck.
Yep. And now if that's the email that they have, they might be losing business. So it's better to get a Gmail so that way they can just change brokerages and the email never shifts. That's probably actually a huge percentage of the reason. Yes, everyone, including you. It's sometimes hard to get agents on the phone. It's even harder to get sellers on the phone. So we had a lot higher chance of getting a response. You did get someone on the phone today. You got some good feedback. You know exactly what you could have changed to help that one go better.
Ask the better questions.
Yep.
I'm literally going to have to go home, be like, draw a stupid algorithm on a piece of paper and like tape it to my wall. Like, ask these questions.
Right.
You know, if this, ask that.
And just be more curious too.
Yeah.
The goal should be to understand the story, what's going on, not necessarily just to find out if they're going to say yes or no to the phone call.
If I ask for more information a certain way too generally, or a certain way, they start telling me about like I'm a retail buyer. Oh, it's 2 bed, 3 bed. You go,
Yeah.
okay, I don't care. You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah. The story on that guy was, what does he need the money for?
Yeah.
The guy's saying he can't do it, but it's like, oh, why can't he do it? Like he's like, oh, he just needs it to be sold. That's what he was saying.
He needs it to be sold.
He needs to be sold.
We're all in the same boat here.
Yeah,
Like, that's
exactly.
everybody.
It's like, oh, well, we would be buying it. What do you mean by it needs to be sold? Like, is it really needs the money? Is he trying to buy another house? Oh, he was. We already went over all that, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, there's so many pieces that I want to ask you right now that you can't answer for me.
Yeah, because I didn't.
Because you didn't
probe.
ask. Now, you still won't get the whole story because you need to stop immediately once you can get an appointment.
Yes.
But the point is the same. Your approach should be just find out the story and once you build enough rapport, get them into an appointment.
Am I opening that guy too fast? Why did he get so mad? Like,
No.
that happens a lot, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't even ask about creative yet. He stopped you before you even asked.
Yeah.
Right? He knew exactly what you were doing.
Because he responded. He knew who I was. He knew.
Yeah. He said no to the cash. So did he see your creative? Maybe. He just didn't respond to it. Or he didn't see it, but the moment you said it like that, he's like, oh, I know exactly where you're going. No, it won't work.
I get why they're so against it, but there's so many people out there who it makes sense for.
Right.
Like, I can't find a scenario where, right now, I can't think of a scenario where the version that I am right now, would sell sub 2 because I'd rather be a landlord and I have a longer time horizon and I have cash sitting around. Like,
Right.
I have options.
But that's because
for
sub
them,
2 solves a problem.
that I just might not. Well, I don't have right now.
If you don't have a problem, because what problem do the people that you're calling have guaranteed?
They can't sell their house.
You have days on market
Yes.
on your filter.
Yeah.
So they already have a problem guaranteed that you don't have.
Yeah.
Right? If you were trying to sell a house and you had days on market, you might be singing a different tune, John.
That's true. I guess if I needed the cash, and I would rather not have the cash flow, but I'd rather have the cash and give up the appreciation,
Right.
give up the cash, give up the long game so I can do something.
So why would you sell subject to could be days on market, but the real thing is it's not the days on market, it's the things behind it. Just like I told you to go find out the story of this guy, I would find out the story for you, John. Mm-hmm. If you had your house up for sale and it was over 90 days and I started talking to you, I'd be like, oh, John, why don't you just keep this as a rental?
Yeah.
I ask that question all the time. Mm-hmm. People be like, "Oh, don't give them the idea that they should rent it out."
Why not? Are they not?
Why not? If
What do
they
they
should
say?
rent it out, it's a better solution. They should do it.
Is that because they don't want to lose their 4
most-
months of work? This is the agent saying that?
So they responding in
Yeah,
turn as the seller, right? Being
Yeah,
like, no, they don't want to be a landlord, right? Or
Yeah,
they
yeah.
do want to be a landlord. Be like, oh, I mean, why don't they just rent it? Oh, well, they don't want to be, right? Dude, most people don't want to be a landlord.
True.
Plain and simple. You're a little more open to it,
I'd rather be yeah.
right? I'll give people all day long, hey, why don't you just rent it out? No, that's not something they want
I
to
should
do.
lob that at them if they're still on the phone with me and not setting an appointment.
Because guess what another question is? If you try to get other information and they're not doing it, like, okay, well, look, I called you specifically because the house has been on the market for a while. If this doesn't sell, they're trying to buy another one. Like, what are they going to do? Are they just not going to buy the new one? Are they going to stay here? That'd be a great question to ask.
Dude, a lot of them don't know.
Most agents have no idea. We are interested because it matters because we're trying to solve a problem. The real estate agents should be trying to solve this problem too, and they're not even caring enough to ask their sellers what their problems are.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even know it's in foreclosure, John.
They don't know.
Sometimes you'll call a listing and I'm talking to them and then all of a sudden I find out that they're in pre-foreclosure, that they have a ton of arrears, and the agent has no idea.
Because who are you talking to? Both of them on a call?
No.
Just the
It's
seller?
because I'm talking to the agent. They finally agree to send the mortgage information so we could try to put a sub-2 deal together, and they go, oh my goodness, I had no idea that they haven't made a payment in 5 months. But yet they're the professional and they just have no idea. And
They're in a really good place. They're in a high trust place.
yeah.
Like there's a lot of leverage they're not using.
Oh, 100%. And then they could do just that much better of a job. And I'm a real estate
Exactly.
agent, right?
Yeah.
I can speak on this, you know. There's a lot of bad agents out there. But what we're doing is we're trying to help find the good agents that are open and wanting to actually solve the problem. Okay? So without further ado, let's stop here. We'll throw that extra call on there if you're still watching. We know this is a long episode, but on to the next one. See ya.